the police now have riot shields of love, not hate, they swear. So I thought we'd go through some of this so everyone knows the British police are internationally a joke. And if you're not aware, well, let me prove it to you. So this is some of the stuff I just found on my Twitter account. This is why I like Twitter, because it's a leftist hellhole, which is why the police are on it. When you can find all of the stuff they're up to. So here's the first one, which is the British police who attended Pride and started taking pictures with furries, and then posted pictures of them with furries. Why is a furry at Pride? Pride's about sexuality. Keep that in your mind. Anyway, moving on from this, because of course the furries are the furries. So we move on, we go to Fetish Pride. So this is another thing we found at Swindon Pride, which is just all the different flags you can buy.
The fuck?
And,
There's a flag for puppy play?
Yes.
Oh my god.
The people who dress up in dog costumes.
It's ridiculous.
And
And also, man, I thought, isn't this just like they're making it patriotism of sexuality? I thought like flag waving was, if you're waving a Union Jack, that's bad.
If you want to be a nationalist for rubber, you can. You can definitely get rubber pride and enjoy yourself. And the police are also engaging in this. So if we go to the next one, we have, of course, a tweet which is now deleted. Aww. But let's scroll down, because the internet never forgets, in case they delete. Glad I saved it. So this is LGBT plus Kent Police. Everyone loves a photo.
Why did they delete it? What's wrong with that?
It's them in Canterbury, hanging out with a bunch of guys in leather gear with the leather pride flag behind them.
There's the guy from Allo Allo.
Hans?
Hair Flick or whatever he's called.
Yeah. I mean, the guy in the middle, actually, it looks especially like her flick. But
That's the guy who gave me a cavity examination at the airport, I think. I recognise those gloves.
But anyway, this is Canterbury Pride. I actually know where this picture's taken as well, Canterbury being a bit of a meme. And the police started hanging out with leather fetishists, took a picture of it, put it out, and then deleted it once I found it and retweeted it. So, good boys. If you're on Twitter and you want to do some good work, I guess we can just bully the police into being the police.
So they deleted it. So is that the police suggesting that there's something wrong with leather fetishism?
Certainly, yes.
I mean, that seems to be the suddenly, backtracked and deleted it. I think I'm actually offended as a leather fetishist.
But also, if you accept it, it's like, well, why aren't you standing with puppy pride?
Yeah.
Go on. Oh,
Yeah.
they did. There is actually some images of that. I forgot about that one. Anyway, so let's move on. So this is not the only thing they've been up to. So there's also this one, which is the account itself was deleted by them. They literally deleted their own account because of how embarrassed Fair Cop made them, which is fantastic. So this is the tweet they had in which they had a pride car. So it's one of those cars they've painted with rainbows. So if you torture, you get charged with a hate crime now, not just a normal crime.
Right, yeah.
So
And I'd be more proud of the police if they actually did anything to just even try and catch the person who broke into my car and nicked $2,000 worth of camera gear.
Nah, you didn't have a rainbow on it. This is why you need to get rainbow insurance.
Yeah, it didn't misgender me. I'm going to gender all my stuff, so if anybody nicks it, it's a hate crime.
Yeah, I literally call it rainbow insurance, and you could probably sell it to people as well. And
a
premium. So they put out a pride car, rainbow flag is at Canterbury today. Everybody loves it, and Fair Cop were like, you sure about that? And they're gone now, so bye-bye. And they're not the only ones. There's more of this. So there's another one I found. So this is the police. What was it? I think this was Yorkshire Police, North Yorkshire. As you can see there, there's the pink helmet, sparkly helmet, I don't know what you call it. And then they put it on some guy, some poor lad. And he's posing with it. And he says in his tweet, let's celebrate intersectionality. Someone who listens to a lot of North Korean propaganda, that does actually sound like a phrase. It's like, let's advance socialism into the future or something like that, It's just like, oh, God. And, of course, this literally looks like the Red Dwarf meme. So if we go to the next one, we have, of course, people who watch Red Dwarf should get this. So you've got the criticism cop, which is literally a guy in a pink police uniform who stops criticism. And Johnny Vegas tweeted about this back when he did it, being like, wouldn't this be funny? Criticism's a crime. Meet the cure. And it's him. And then you have the actual police who dress like the criticism cop. And also,
police criticism.
Yes, being offensive is an offence. Literally.
Which it isn't, by the way, just
it
in
is.
case.
No, it is.
No, being offensive in and of itself isn't an offence.
Yes, it is. Section 127, Communications Act 2003, it is illegal to post anything that is grossly offensive on an online platform.
All right.
So if it's online, it's a crime. If it's offline, you're quite right.
Right. And this is online, so I better be careful what I say.
Yes, if anyone finds anything offensive in here, we are actually criminals. Because the UK is a free country. Totally not a tyrannical hellhole.
Well, it's funny. I mean, I've done underground shows in Brunei, which is an oil-rich, basically a dictator, an Islamic dictatorship, where comedy's banned. And I felt more free on stage and less risk of being arrested than I do performing in the UK.
You can actually get a lower sentence as well in Islamic countries for blasphemy.
Oh, really?
So if you get charged for blasphemy in Kuwait, you get a lower sentence, maximum sentence, than you do for Section 127 in the UK. Wonderful, isn't it? Anyway, so there's one more I wanted to demonstrate here. So if we get the last one here, we just have the police with their trans fan which totally doesn't look like they're saying free candy. As one guy commented underneath when I posted this, is like, yeah, I mean, if a pedo did want to get a van and drive around and not be noticed by the police aren't pulling that van over, are they? Just saying. Like, But anyway, this is the money they're spending it on. But the trans van is, of course, also could be interpreted as a threat. Like, we're going to lock you up in the van if you're trans. And also, this is the interpretation of the trans riot shields. So, This is what I want to talk about the amazing riot shields of love. So, Harry Miller is an amazing chap who got investigated for his thinking because he liked a limerick, and has ever since been on a glorious crusade to fix the police service as an ex-cop.
And I think his court case is still going on about this limerick.
But he's
he's made a counterclaim against the criminal justice.
But he does a lot of things. And the latest thing I really want to give him applause for. So let's go to this article, which is from the critic Schrodinger's Shield, he titled it. So this is about the transgender riot shield. So if you scroll down, show people the image, just the cops posing with, this is with their rainbow wings, but I'm sure people remember the transgender riot shield. So in here he says, last week, Leicestershire Constabulary unveiled its own version of the flying squad, as its officers took to the streets wearing fluffy fairy wings, possibly sourced from Naughty Ash's shop and supplied by Ken Dodd with his tickling stick. Should this crack squad of Tinkerbells unforeseeably prove ineffective, then Leicestershire's elite tactical squad unit is poised with riot shields adorned with the latest heraldry. The shields are easy to spot, in place of the traditional transparent 4mm thick polycarbonate, designed so the copper behind can be visible in front of the shield behind it. The new riot shields are wrapped in the colours of the trans flag and offer no such transparency. If nothing else, the change will have a chillingly effective metaphor. Totally true. I love the way he writes as well. It's just fantastic. Faircorp last week turned its attention to Leicester, formally reporting the deployment of the politically charged riot shields as a non-hate crime incident.
Yeah.
So a non-crime hate incident, sorry. So it's not a crime, but it is a hate incident.
Oh, yeah, and these non-crime hate incidents, there's basically 150,000 of these have been recorded. So if you're accused of a hate crime, even if the police investigate and find out you did nothing wrong,
it still goes on your record.
It still goes on your record. And that's then anybody does a DBS check, any HR department, if you apply for a job, and HR departments are super woke now, and they're super, high on, tolerance and diversity and all the rest of it, and inclusion. So if they see that you've got a non-crime hate incident, there's no way you're getting that job.
There are stories, I haven't been able to verify them, of people losing promotions in the police service or not getting jobs as teachers because of this sort of thing as well. I don't know. But the situation is absurd.
Yeah.
But Harry continues in here, and it gets very good. So Harry reported the police for a non-crime hate incident because they have a transgender riot shield, and he interpreted that as a threat.
Well, because riot shields are a weapon.
Yes.
I mean, I used to work, I was a criminal intelligence analyst, and I was on a ride-along in somewhere in Woolwich, and somebody got battered to the ground by the police using riot shields. So they use them. They use them tactically as a weapon.
Offensively and defensively.
Yeah.
So he says in here, surprisingly, an officer called to confirm that, in accordance with approved police practice, the incident had indeed been recorded as a non-crime hate incident, although not against any individually identified officers. The reason given for this abrupt departure from policy was that, following an exhaustive 5-minute investigation, Leicestershire had concluded that the officers were pure of heart. Entirely pure of heart.
What? Was this investigation carried out in the 16th century by the Spanish Inquisition?
So I
mean, what on earth?
So even though anyone else doing this would have been a crime, the officers are pure of heart and they would never be against wokeism. Therefore, they did nothing wrong. This
pure of heart. That's insane. That really shows the sort of confessional state that we're living in. That this wokeism is a new religion.
Yeah. So this rankless more than little as a standard practice is to name and shame. For instance, because I once sardonically, am I saying that right? Sardonically, I don't know.
Yeah.
Tweeted that my fondness for Sarah Brightman makes me gender fluid. The police have argued in open court that I must be excluded from certain categories of employment for the next 6 years. So this is Harry Miller talking about the persecution he's faced for daring to say a thing which offends wokeness.
Yeah.
And of no one else.
And the judge, when he was charged and because they came and questioned him, I think it was him. So the judge or the magistrate said, this doesn't even approach the foothills of illegality, but the state can still charge you and make you go. You were seeing it with Marion Miller. The state can charge you and then you have to go through all that process. You've got a non-crime hate incident recorded against you. So regardless of what you've done, this is basically state intimidation. Regardless of what you've done or you haven't done, the state can come in and, like, if anybody steps out of line or has the wrong opinions, they can say, listen, we can get you.
Yes.
We can even though we can't lock you up, we can cause you a huge amount of pain and hassle.
So Harry's flipping the table and taking a new strategy, which is public intimidation of the state, which is great, instead of state intimidation of the public, because he's reporting the police. So he says that even though he's been excluded from employment for 6 years in some places because of his dangerous thoughts. So even though I am a former police officer without so much as a speeding ticket to my name, an application to serve as a lollipop man would have me turned down on the grounds that I may kick a trans child under the bus. That's how they view you. I mean, that is why you have a non-crime hate incident against your name. The entire rationale for recording non-crime hate incidents is to facilitate intervention, thereby nibbing poor behaviour in the bud. By recording the complaint, Leicestershire Constabulary has acknowledged that the riot shield constitutes a symbol of recorded hostility. They accept it, by definition of them recording it in the book, going in the book. However, in a further departure from policy, it also states that it will not modify its behaviour in any way, and that the politically contentious riot shield will be back on public display at the next available opportunity. In other words, it is hate, but it is the right sort of hate. Or as North Yorkshire Police tweeted last week, quote, "It's not wrong if it comes from a place of good."
Yeah.
So
I mean, it is ridiculous that they're making these sort of moral judgments about the hate. This is why hate crime laws, there's one of the reasons they're terrifying is because it's so diaphanous, it's so nebulous. You can't pin down, you can't logically, rationally pin down in a sort of, a scientific way if something's a hate crime or not. It's all perception, and it's all, oh, they've got a pure heart. Oh no, they've got a bad heart.
But that's the thing. We've usually had it that there was some leftists who got charged under Section 127, for example. There was a lady who tweeted out #KillerWhiteMen. She was a leftist.
Yeah.
And they did the investigation, and then they threw it out because, of course, they did. But at least they did the investigation.
Yeah.
In this incident, they've just said no.
Right.
Why? Because our officers are woke, therefore they can do what they want.
Yeah.
But if you did this, you'd be in big trouble.
Yeah.
So he continues. Wikipedia describes a riot shield as a tactical weapon of defence. Following the Kill the Bill riots in Bristol, a superintendent from Somerset and Avon described the shield strikes as a legitimate deployment of police weaponry. Leicestershire police, however, reject any suggestion that a riot shield is a weapon.
It's definitely, I've seen it used as a weapon. I've seen it used to batter a guy to the ground.
If the public took them to a public protest in London, they'd be detained for taking weapons to a protest.
Yeah.
So Harry writes, "Great," I said. "So, if I get a riot shield and paint it in the colours of the suffragettes and march with it through Leicester City Centre, that will be fine, will it?" "No," said the officer he was on the phone with. "That would be a public order offence. You cannot march a politically provocative riot shield through the streets of Leicester."
But how are the suffragettes politically provocative?
I know.
How have we reached this point where what's going to be politically provocative next? Like Martin Luther King? I'm serious.
Yeah, there's that aspect of it, but it's literally the officers on the phone with him being like, "We can do it, you can't. Why? Because we're better than you. Much better than you. You're garbage." Anyway, so why not, I asked. "You told me it's not a weapon." Police responded, "It's not. However, I can tell from this phone call that you are motivated by antagonism. That would make the shield a weapon. We cannot allow a member of the public into the streets with a weapon. But an officer with a weapon, well, don't worry, he's not antagonistic. Therefore, the shield changes its form and becomes a symbol of love, not a weapon." To summarise this sophistry, carried out by a cop whose heart is sweeter than the icing on a fairy cake, the riot shield is a powerful symbol of love. However, in the hands of a dark-hearted member of the public with a history of comparing themselves to Sarah Brightman, it becomes a dangerous symbol of violence. Harry Miller picks it up. Oh, God. So what's Harry Miller done? Anyway, suitably chastised, Fair Cop went out and brought some genuine police riot shields in preparation for my forthcoming appearance at the Royal Court of Justice. Today they are in the paint shop. Perhaps it's time for Sweeney Todd to stop on Jelly Babies and get the Ford console fired up. So he is going to go down to his court with a couple of riot shields, and they're going to have the suffragette colours or whatever else painted on them, and charge him. Go for it. You charge him, you have to charge the police. That is how the damn law works. Yeah. And if they're just going to deny it, that is not going to go through the courts. The police in this country are an international joke, not just nationally. But
Yeah.
like Americans endlessly make fun of us for them, Canadians, all the rest of it, and they should, because they are just embarrassing. The
Yeah.
entire industry needs to be reformed. It's not that the police is a pointless institution, but it needs to become an institution, not a clown factory. And the
Yeah, and also they can't be doing this moral arbitration at the frontline officers. It's ridiculous. You can't be like, oh, this person's got a pure heart, so they can carry this weapon,
But
and this person's got a bad heart.
I do have sufficient faith in the court system because they actually do good things
Yeah.
quite regularly.
Tend to be a bit smarter.
They have to implement the laws that the parliament have passed, which
Yeah,
is why you
yeah.
get Section 127. But quite often you'll get judges who are just like, no, don't waste my time with this.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you try and mess with me, I will send you to jail.
Yeah, which happens a lot with with Harry Miller's original case. The judge said,
Get the hell out.
Yeah, this doesn't, this is ridiculous, and criticized the police and the criminal. What they call CPS or whatever.
Yeah, Crown Prosecution Service.
Yeah.
But
But in Scotland, the police and the criminal justice system and the courts and everything's being consolidated and centralised. And the SNP, I think the government's got too much control certainly over the police. And I don't think the criminal justice system and the courts are as independent in Scotland as they are in the rest of the UK.
No. Speaking of the SNP, I have some suggestions for those riot shields, Harry, if you'll take a minute.
We've got some amazing segues.
Yeah,
today. This is
I just wanted to mention the SNP. Remember on Pride, they tweeted this out. Happy Pride Month from everyone at the SNP with their logo, which looks like a noose, which is what the lady in Scotland is being tried for.
So
because
yeah,
of the
Marion
suffragette colours.
Miller tweeted a picture of a suffragette ribbon, which looks a lot. She was arrested for and charged with a hate crime because it
looking
looks
like
like
a
a
noose.
noose.
It
Well, it doesn't look anything like a noose. This looks far more like a noose.
And I love that the SNP actually tweeted out a version of their logo in the racial pride flag, because of course you have black and brown segregated from the rest of the queers, as they describe themselves, because the SNP believes that black and brown should be segregated from everyone else, I assume. And put that on one of the riot shields. And then, if they do charge with you, it also becomes a conversation about the SNP and whether or not their symbol and their logo and this particular tweet is also a crime. And I'd love the idea that the SNP's logo becomes a criminal symbol under their own watch because of their own laws. And speaking of Nicola Sturgeon, I thought we'd also enjoy her getting shafted by a very good man, Trevor Phillips.
Oh, I love Trevor Phillips.
Trevor Phillips is fantastic. Yeah. He had Nicola Sturgeon on his show and managed to get her agree to take the white privilege test that her government's passing out to teachers. Let's play this clip.
You've issued guidance on racism to schools, which advises teachers to take a test to measure their white privilege. Have you taken that test, First Minister?
Sorry, I haven't. I'm happy to do so. But if you want to give me more detail of that, I will certainly consider it. But I'm not entirely off the top of my head sure what you're referring to.
Well, it is a test which says because of who you are and how you're born, you have privilege in your case, which I, in my case, do not have. And the advice that your Department of Education has given is that schools should give, the teachers should take this test to demonstrate that they, because they're white, have this advantage. And I think it would be rather good. I mean, why don't we do a deal that the Scottish Government Cabinet takes the white privilege test and one of one of your colleagues comes back on and tells us what the results are?
I'm happy to do. I think these things are really important. I don't have the particular guidance in front of me. I'm not trying to dodge your question.
But she did at the start of that blathering there say that she's happy to do it. And I look forward to it. I look forward to Hamza Yusuf being the most white privileged. the guy who's always whining about whites.
Well, he is immensely privileged. I mean, he went to private school.
Exactly.
Like most woke people.
They're all going to get the highest of
privileged. The most privileged people.
Yeah. I thought I'd end on just this finally other piece of good news. So this is a guy tweeting out that the Crown Prosecution Service has told me that it has ended its partnership with the Diversity Champion scheme run by LGBT charity Stonewall. Very good.
This is great. There's a lot of organisations that are ending their association. Which, I mean, we were talking about rackets and like paying the church or paying the mob. This is one of them.
We spoke about this a lot on the podcast, but this follows the departure of the European Court of Human Rights. EHRC, Ofcom, and also the BBC News and all the rest of it, because loads of departments are pulling out. Thanks to the work of Kemi Badenoch and Liz Truss, I am to understand. So glory to them, and also good news. Police are going to get what they deserve. The SNP are going to get what they deserve. And if not, well, we now have the right to walk around with riot shields with the SNP's logo on, apparently. If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to the full premium content we have on the site.
Yeah, we've got some really good stuff. Like podcasts, we can't really put up on YouTube or other public domains because we're dealing with sensitive subjects and we don't want to be misconstrued in what we're saying here. The most recent one I've done is the Progressing to Destruction podcast, which is talking about the actual impact of immigration on the United Kingdom. There are lots of progressive arguments on how the ethnic diversity of the restaurants that you're enjoying has nothing but positive results for the United Kingdom, and that's not true, and we can actually see some of the consequences of this. And so I go through that in detail. We also have our regular series, such as the Epochs of the Lotus Eaters, where we talk about history, myself and Bodade. With this particular one I really enjoyed because it's talking about the Battle of Tunis and why leadership matters, because this was in the First Punic War, where Carthage is losing horrifically to the Romans, and they can't understand why, because there's nothing wrong with their navy, there's nothing wrong with their army. Turns out it was all about the leadership, and all it took was one Spartan general to come and turn the entire thing around, and that was a fantastic episode. I really enjoyed doing that. And we also have the Contemplation series that Josh and Hugo do. This is really interesting, where they just take an interesting subject and go through it in meticulous detail. This particular episode is the science of conformity, and you may well have seen lots of people still wearing their masks in the UK and elsewhere, even though you don't have to. And this goes into why psychology shows that people happen to do this kind of thing. We also have lots of premium articles, again, dealing with subjects that often are not something that you can adequately have a conversation with a bad faith actor. This particular one is free speech and the trope of gay parenthood, which on the, immediately you think, okay, this is going to be politically incorrect in some way, but it's not really. It's actually a very delicate article expressing concern that this is yet another subject where the results aren't in, we don't know what the consequences of this are, and yet we're still not allowed to question the premise. And it's because of the current political environment that we're in. Also, there are lots of other just very interesting and informative articles, such as one by Hugo about how overpopulation isn't real. It's not a real thing. And yet we're constantly told that it is. But the Earth is enormous. And it turns out it can hold billions more humans than we actually have. So, interesting that. And we also have loads of very interesting interviews with people who you may not have heard of, such as Hatton Tash, the lady who was attacked, a Christian lady who was attacked at Speaker's Corner for questioning Islamism. She was stabbed in the head. In very interesting interview with her and various others. And of course, we have a live event coming up on the 24th and 25th of September. Now, the 25th of September one is sold out. So you'll have to, if you would like to come and see us, come to the Friday 24th September one. This is in South London. As you sign up, you will be emailed the exact location because there are bad faith political actors out there who might try and interfere with the event itself. So there we go.
If you want to get access to all the premium content, please go over to lotuseaters.com and subscribe to keep the show running. Thank you and goodbye.